All right, greetings. I just want to go over just what we are going to be doing the next couple of days. This video will take us from the 12th through really the end of the quarter, this video. So depending on what days you're out, you can kind of skim ahead or watch the whole thing if you're just really excited about seeing my face. Okay, so we are starting out on the 12th. We are having our final Fahrenheit discussion. If you are someone who is absent and unable to participate with that discussion, we have one of two options. Number one, if you did well on discussions leading up to this point, I will take that mastery grade from a previous discussion and place it in our, the communication grade isn't an assessment grade. So I can either use a replacement if you received mastery. If you received less than mastery on a previous discussion, I will mark it as absent, and this will convert to not for grading when we start our next discussion. So it won't hurt your grade. The note component of our final Fahrenheit discussion, the diction analysis from the notes, is an assessment grade. So you want to make sure that you turn those in on Schoology. This is not a new assignment, just as a reminder that it is due today. Okay, so our paper introduction, the following class period on the 14th and then the 18th, next Tuesday, we are going to be starting our Fahrenheit paper. So in Schoology, if you look under, and even if this isn't your class, that's okay. All of my 9th grade classes are set up the same way. So you've got, here's where you submit your notes, the final notes. We've got our paper outline and then the paper submission. This track and motif paper is literally just the spot where you turn it in. There isn't a document. Well, the document is something very similar to what's in the outline. So I'm going to open up the outline. No, I'm not. That's a lie. Hold on. Nope, still not true. Okay, hold on. Let me pause this really quick. Right, we're back and better than ever. Okay, on your side, when you open this paper, here's what it'll look like. The final paper we're going to take through the recursive writing process. So it will be an assessment grade for literary analysis, writing content, and revision. What you're looking at right now is just a writing content practice grade, and it is the outline for the paper. So you've got just the outline strand here. Each part of this outline has some prompts of what you need to do in that section. You are not intended, this is not intended as a spot for you to write your entire paper. You can use bullets, you can use phrases, you can, if you really want to write out your entire paper here, I mean, that's not the intent of the outline. The intent of the outline is for you to just plan out, jot out your notes so you know what you need to do when you start drafting. This is also a place where I can quickly look and see, do you have a thesis statement? Do you have support that's logical? Do you have your evidence? That sort of thing. So your introduction, you'd have your notes here. And again, in the bullets here, you don't have to write the book and the author. You're writing about Fahrenheit. Just make sure in your paper you're doing that. You're identifying a motif in the book. Ideally, this would be a motif that you already followed through your notes, so you don't have to go through that process in an extensive, way here. Are you going to follow fire? Are you going to follow nature as a motif? Are you going to follow books through the story? But you're going to identify a motif and you're going to explain how that motif evolves over the course of the novel. It does need to, remember, a motif is a symbol that changes over time, and that change links it to a theme, like it relates to an overarching thematic message. So I could, for example, let's say I wanted to write about nature. I would want to focus on birds. I'll use that as my example. I want to focus on the use of birds throughout the story. So some examples that stand out are when books catch on fire almost every single time. Bradbury describes them as birds, like fluttering through the air. I could talk about the phoenix that's on the captain's, like the insignia for the firefighters, which is somewhat ironic. I could talk about when Montag actually goes into nature at the end of the story. So I want to follow where birds show up and how it's different, how symbolically it's different. So I'd make the argument in the beginning that the birds, like their books are being described as birds being decimated, being destroyed, something that shouldn't theoretically be able to fly away and be free isn't. It's constrained, much like knowledge is in the society. Then we get to the middle of the book. You see the role of the phoenix, how the fire department is using the birds is somewhat like, obviously they don't get what a phoenix is. Like, you can catch it on fire, but you can't kill it, which is the whole point that we basically at the end, when you're looking at actual nature, books are free. Like, you have Montag basically becomes the bird. He doesn't literally fly away, but he flees the city. He gets out. He's not killed in this nuclear apocalypse that explodes. I mean, spoiler alert if you haven't finished the book. So he is able to free himself. So I could make the argument, just observing those things, how birds have shown up over the course of the story, I could make the argument relating to a thematic message. The message I could pick would be that knowledge cannot be contained, or, you know, a person cannot kill ideas, or society cannot kill an idea, you know, and I think that the birds are really the idea. They try to do it. They try to set it on fire. They try to destroy it, but like a phoenix, it rises from the ashes. So that, in broad strokes, would be where I would want to go. Am I going to write all of that in this one spot? No, but I might jot notes of like beginning birds on fire, phoenix, you know, Montag fleeing at the end, and then I might include one sentence here that actually addresses my thematic message. Make sure that's one piece I would include in your outline. The body paragraph structure, I have set this up, like each body paragraph is similar. I have it broken down into 2 paragraphs. If you want to add more, fine. If you are working on your draft and you're a page and a half in and you're still in 1 paragraph, that's too long. Somewhere in there's probably a natural break. So don't feel confined to this. Like, you can break it up if it seems logical. And so what you're going to do, you're going to identify the point in the story where the motif shows up, what it symbolizes in that moment. You're going to link that back to the larger thematic message. And you want to make sure that you have adequate analysis for the evidence you bring up. Adequate analysis, as defined by our English department, is that you have at least 2 different ideas to communicate about your evidence. So idea number 1 could be what the motif, what it symbolizes in that moment in the story. And idea number 2 could be how it relates to that thematic message. This isn't exactly how you have to do it, but that's an idea of how you could break up your response to your evidence for adequate analysis. Body paragraph number 2, you want to pick a point later in the story where the motif shows up. It is fine if you would like to bring up a 3rd example. It is not required for this paper, but you are welcome to add a further piece of evidence if you feel like it would strengthen your argument. In terms of conclusions, there are some strategies. We have a link here that you can click on. It opens up a PowerPoint. I will create a second video that addresses these conclusions, since we won't be getting to that until, let's see, when we'll be getting to that. So I'm officially introducing the paper on the 14th and 18th. You're going to be working on your outline. The outline is going to be due on the 19th and 20th. Essentially, I want to look at those outlines in class to make sure people are on track before they get too far into the writing. So I'll be looking at these outlines during your class period. So even if you're at home, you can get feedback from me on this. So you have a drafting day. You've got drafting days on the 19th and 20th. And then note that your draft for the peer review date, I'm calling it a second draft. It is an expectation that you are reading over and making some revisions to your paper before the peer review. So that component is important. I will, if you are someone who is out extended, like through to the 25th, 26th, we can talk about alternatives for the peer review. If you have friends in class who are willing to read your paper and you want to share it with them, fantastic. If you don't have people that you know super well in class that you can share your paper with, we can come up with an alternative plan. You can have someone at home read it using our revision feedback, but I'll make a separate video. We'll get into that at a later date. But that is what we're going to be working on these next few class periods. So it's important essentially for you, number one, to turn in your Fahrenheit notes. Number two, work on that outline and turn it into me over Schoology so you can get feedback on it, and then work on that draft for peer review. Any questions, direct to me on email, and I can either always send an email response or a video response with answers. Or we could talk on the phone. We could go old school. Okay. Good luck.